This is a 1983 XLX 1000 Sportster. It sat in a shed in 4 inches of water, covered in purple paint, a green coil, a hacked Mikuni carb job, and all the wrong parts. I gave myself $500 to bring it back to life. I'm old school, and this is vintage Harleys Revive. The XLX was a stripped down Ironhead. Black tank, solo seat, silver engine cases, and no chrome for the sake of chrome. It was Harley's answer to the everyday rider. But this one had lost its identity. Bad paint, bolt-on junk, mismatched everything. Not even close to what it was meant to be. Most would probably pass it by, not worth the time. But I couldn't leave it like that. Not when I knew what it used to be. What do you need from me? With less than $500 to spend, I got to work, stripped off the junk, and pulled out the parts that didn't belong. When you're in disassembly, you take your time and then you find things like this. This is a turn signal wire, and obviously this was worn through, and then there's also, a pretty poor joint there. I took the fender off, but I also found out that there were problems here that need to be solved, and I'll solve them in reassembly so it's correct. Corrosion underneath here where that fender had been painted and put on top of this fender. I mean, you could just see it. This bike, again, evidence that it has seen a lot of moisture for a lot of years. If you're into real Harley revivals on a budget, bringing back bikes that were left for dead, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, and this is just the start. It'll be better. I replaced the green coil with an original black Harley coil. I swapped the Mikuni for the correct key and butterfly carb and factory air cleaner. Refinished the silver engine cases. Found a black tank with factory paint, a solo seat, an upright license plate holder, new fluids, new rear shocks. Every move took it one step closer to what it was built to be. What I want to do with this bike is take the corrosion and the bad decisions off this bike and leave the years on the bike. That's my point on this bike. Trying to move it back towards what it was when it was originally built without taking all of the years off of it. The paint that's chipped off the calipers takes 40 years for that to happen. And I don't want to take it off there. I don't want it to look brand new. I want it to look 40 years old. That's what I'm trying to do with this bike. This is how I want the bike to be if I'm gonna ride it, because I don't like breaking down alongside the road. So I took an hour and 15 minutes, closer to an hour and a half, to make sure that this wiring was right. Here's a problem that is solved. This motorcycle will not have this problem again. So the problem we've got here is that when you pull the front brake lever, it doesn't actuate the calipers. So when I pressed that lever, that master cylinder brake lever, I felt it give, and that's when it came through. I think the restriction was here in this splice block. And this is what happens when moisture gets in the brake fluid and it's not changed. And then that moisture creates corrosion inside these. We're gonna go back to the other side, see if that one will flow. If that one flows, then we fix the problem. Look, that's coming from around the threads. The restriction's right here in this nozzle. It works. I mean, it needs bled, but it works and the caliper's not seized. So we'll put it back together, go to the other side, do the same. This is going to replace the Mikuni carburetor that was on the 1983 XLX that we're working on. And this Harley-Davidson carburetor, as you can see right there, would have been the carburetor that was on this motorcycle when it was made. On this year Ironhead, you have to have a support on the carburetor. We make a bracket and we'll make it out of this flat stock from that hole to that bolt. Getting the brakes right, tuning the carb, wiring up all the lights and fixing the wiring problems. All of it had to work like it was 1983 again.
about got it.
Now, it's not perfect, but it looks right. And it feels like it remembers what it was. Yeah! This wasn't about chrome or showing off. It was about giving an Ironhead its identity back and getting it back on the road. This one's back to what it was meant to be, and that is enough for me.
I'm old school. Be good to yourself. We'll see you next time on Vintage Harleys Revived.